You're controlling, Nathan. You scare me. You monitor where I go?
Say it again, Madison, I said, my palm flat on the conference table. The room was so quiet I could hear the ice machine humming somewhere down the hall. Say it again with the papers in front of you. My wife sat across from me in a cream blazer I had bought her for our anniversary. Her eyes were wet. Her mouth was tight. Her lawyer sat on her left with a yellow legal pad and the kind of face men wear when they think the truth is already on their side. Madison looked at the printed screenshots between us. Then she looked at me. You're controlling, Nathan, she whispered. You scare me. You monitor where I go. Her mother, Linda, sat behind her with a purse clenched in both hands like a shield. She nodded before Madison even finished. Madison's lawyer slid the stack of papers across the table. Mr. Cole, he said, these messages are extremely concerning. I looked down. There they were. My name at the top. My supposed words underneath. You don't leave this house unless I say so. Send your location every 15 minutes. If you talk to Brandon again, I'll ruin you. My fingers went cold against the paper. Not because I had written them. Because I hadn't. Across the table, Madison watched my face the way a person watches a match touch gasoline. She wasn't waiting for an answer. She was waiting for an explosion. That was the whole point. If I raised my voice, I became the man in the screenshots. If I slammed the table, I became the husband she had described to her lawyer. If I stood up too fast, her mother would have another story to tell. So I didn't move. I didn't shout. I didn't throw the papers. I breathed once through my nose and kept both hands where everyone could see them. Madison wiped one tear with her ring finger. Those are your words, she said. No, I said. My voice came out lower than I expected. Those are your receipts for a lie. Linda snapped forward in her chair. Don't you dare intimidate her in here. Madison flinched on cue. See? She said. This is what he does. He twists everything. Her lawyer tapped the screenshots. We're asking that you leave the marital home within 48 hours. Madison will remain in the property. We are also requesting temporary support. How much? I asked. $7,500 a month, he said, plus exclusive use of the home and continued access to the joint account until the hearing. I stared at Madison. Her eyes did not move. Not once. You want me out of the house I pay for, I said. You want my business account open. And you want me branded as dangerous before discovery even starts. Madison's lip trembled. I just want to feel safe. That sentence hurt more than the fake texts. Because 8 years earlier, she had said almost the same words while standing in our empty kitchen, surrounded by paint cans and moving boxes. Back then, we were broke enough to count grocery receipts. Back then, safety meant something different. Back then, it meant me. My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 42 years old, born and raised outside Columbus, Ohio. I own a small freight company called Cole Freight Solutions. Nothing fancy. No glass tower. No private elevator. Just a yard full of trucks, a dispatch office that smells like burnt coffee, and 37 people who depend on Friday payroll clearing on time. I did not come from money. I came from long shifts, bad knees, and a father who believed a man's name was only worth what he was willing to stand behind. When I met Madison, I was still driving routes myself. I would leave before sunrise with diesel on my jacket and come home with road salt on my boots. She was working reception at a dental office then, saving for community college, taking care of her mother, pretending she wasn't exhausted. She used to call me steady. Not handsome. Not exciting. Steady. At 29, I thought that was the best compliment in the world. We built slowly. A rented duplex first. Then a used Silverado. Then my first warehouse lease. Then a house on Maple Ridge with a cracked walkway and a maple tree that dropped leaves into the gutter every October. The day we got the keys, Madison stood in the kitchen and cried. I asked her what was wrong. She said, nothing. I just finally feel safe. I remember that clearly. The sun coming through the window. The dust on the floor. Her hand inside mine. I remember thinking I will spend the rest of my life protecting this. That is the dangerous part about a good memory. It becomes a room you keep walking back into, long after someone has burned the house down. For the first few years, Madison was proud of the business. She helped answer phones when dispatch got slammed. She brought lunch to the yard. She knew the drivers by name. When I got our first major regional contract, she taped the signed agreement to the refrigerator and wrote, "Told you," across the top in red marker. We were not perfect. No marriages. I worked too much. She wanted nicer things faster than I could build them. I missed dinners. She hated how tired I was. But every marriage has weather. I thought we were just learning how to stand in it. Then GreenLine freight happened. GreenLine was the kind of contract that changes a small company's lungs. $600,000 a year if we landed it. Enough to replace 2 aging rigs. Enough to add benefits without squeezing payroll. Enough for my drivers to breathe a little easier. For 6 months, I lived inside that bid. Rates. Insurance. Safety history. Delivery windows. Fuel surcharges. Every number checked twice. Madison used to roll her eyes when I brought spreadsheets to bed. Then one night, she stopped rolling her eyes. She started asking questions. Not normal questions. Not, "How was your day?" Not, "Did the meeting go well?" Questions with hooks in them. How much cash sits in the operating account before payroll? What happens if GreenLine delays signing? Could someone warn them about your temper and make them pause? I looked up from my laptop. My temper? She smiled like she had said nothing strange. I just mean business reputation. People talk. That was the first hairline crack. Small enough to ignore. Big enough to remember. Around the same time, Brandon Pierce entered our life. He was a real estate broker with a perfect beard, white teeth, and a Cadillac Escalade he parked like he wanted people to notice it. Madison said he was helping her build a consulting brand. She wanted her own thing, she said. She was tired of being known as Nathan Cole's wife. I understood that. Or I tried to. A man can be proud of what he builds and still miss what his wife is becoming right in front of him. Brandon came to one backyard cookout in July. He shook my hand too long and called my company cute. Local logistics is a grind, he said, sipping my beer on my patio. But hey, somebody has to move the boxes. Madison laughed. Not nervously. Not politely. She laughed like he had said something clever. That was the second crack. I told myself I was being insecure. Men do that. We feel the floor tilt, then apologize to the room for noticing. By September, Madison's phone was always face down. By October, she had new perfume. By November, she was going to client strategy dinners. In heels she used to save for weddings. I did not spy. I did not track her. I did what tired husbands do when they are afraid of looking jealous. I paid attention and said less. Then came the night everything stopped being suspicion. It was 1:12 a.m. I remember the time because I was standing in the upstairs hallway with a glass of water in my hand, looking down through the front window. A black Escalade sat at the curb with its lights off. Madison stood in the driveway wearing the camel coat I bought her in Chicago. Brandon stood close enough that his breath touched her hair. They were not arguing. They were not discussing business. His hand moved to the small of her back, and she leaned into it like it belonged there. Something inside me went quiet. Not dead. Worse. Organized. I went back to the bedroom before she came inside. I lay down. I listened to her keys turn. I smelled his cologne on her coat when she slipped under the covers. I wanted to ask. I wanted to shake the truth out of the room. Instead, I waited until morning and called Rachel Kim. Rachel had handled contract work for my company for years. She was not loud. She was not flashy. She was the kind of attorney who made silence feel expensive. When I told her what I had seen, she did not tell me to confront Madison. She said, "Do not give her a scene she can use." That sentence saved me. 3 days later, Madison filed for divorce. 2 days after that, her lawyer emailed Rachel the screenshots. That was when betrayal turned into something colder. Madison did not just want out. She wanted the house. She wanted support. She wanted access to the accounts. And she wanted me painted as the kind of man even I would hate. So Rachel and I started checking the posts. Carrier logs. Device records. Bank statements. Hotel charges. Company filings. Tax disclosures. I did not hide money. I did not move a dime. 18 months earlier, on the advice of my CPA and Rachel, Cole Freight's operating assets had been placed into a revocable business trust. Trucks. Receivables. Client contracts. Not to cheat my wife. To protect payroll if I got sued, sick, or hit by a bus on I-71. Madison had signed the CPA engagement letter. She had signed it without reading it. People always say greed is smart. It isn't. Greed gets hungry. Then it gets sloppy. Which brought us back to that conference room, with fake screenshots between us and Madison whispering that she wanted to feel safe. I looked at her across the table. Safe? I said. You had Brandon in my driveway at 1:12 a.m. 3 nights ago. Her face changed for half a second. Just half. Then the mask came back. That was business. Business doesn't leave cologne on your coat. Her lawyer raised one hand. Careful, Mr. Cole. No, Rachel said, opening her folder. You be careful. Because if your client submits fabricated evidence, this stops being divorce strategy. Madison's eyes narrowed. Fabricated? He's desperate. Rachel did not look at her. Then she won't mind if we request device extraction, carrier logs, and metadata. For one full second, nobody breathed. Madison's lips parted. You can't do that. Rachel looked up. We can ask. The court can order. Your lawyer can explain the rest. Madison's lawyer touched the screenshots like they had suddenly become hot. We are not agreeing to a fishing expedition. Rachel smiled once. It is not fishing when your client handed us the pond. Madison turned to me. You always do this. You make me look crazy. No, I said. You printed fake texts and brought your mother to watch. Linda stood halfway up. He has controlled every dollar since day one. Rachel flipped one page over. Madison has a debit card, 2 credit cards, a leased Lexus, and withdrew $42,000 from the joint account in 6 months. Madison snapped. That was household money. For the Renaissance Hotel? Rachel asked. 3 times? Madison's chair scraped back 2 inches. Her lawyer said, Do not answer that. I kept my hands on the table. Always visible. Always still. You told people I tracked your mileage. I said. The Lexus app sends service reports to my email because I pay the lease. Madison laughed. Sharp. Fake. Listen to him. He thinks paying bills means owning me. Rachel slid another form forward. Then she will not object to a temporary order freezing non-essential withdrawals. Madison's face went flat. You can't freeze my money. I looked at her wedding ring. Then at the fake texts. Funny how freedom only mattered after the account got locked. Her cheeks flushed. She grabbed the ring off her finger and dropped it beside the screenshots. There, she said. Since you want to count everything, count that too. Linda hissed. Don't give him anything. He'll use it. Rachel picked up the ring with 2 fingers and placed it inside a clear evidence sleeve. Madison blinked. What are you doing? Rachel sealed the sleeve. Preserving property your client threw during a legal meeting. Madison's lawyer leaned toward her. Stop reacting. Madison pointed at me. He's baiting me. I raised both hands, palms open. I haven't raised my voice. That was the first time Linda looked unsure. Not sympathetic. Just unsure. And uncertainty is where a lie starts to bleed. Then Madison's phone buzzed on the table. Brandon's name flashed across the screen before she slapped it face down. Rachel looked at her lawyer. Is that the business mentor? Madison's jaw locked. That's private. Not if joint funds pay for hotel rooms, Rachel said. And not if he helped distribute false claims about my client. Madison stood. I'm not doing this. Her lawyer grabbed her wrist. Sit down. She yanked away. No. He doesn't get to drag Brandon into my divorce. I pushed one bank statement across the table. You already did when you charged $684 at the Hilton downtown on my Amex. She snatched it up. Scanned it. Shoved it at her lawyer. That was a client event. Rachel slid over another page. 1 king room. Late checkout. Valet for a Cadillac Escalade. Linda's mouth opened. Then shut. Madison turned on me. You went through my statements? Our statements, I said. Same account you wanted unlocked. Her lawyer exhaled. We need a caucus. Rachel shook her head. After this. She tapped the final line on the document. 2 hours after that hotel charge, Madison emailed 3 screenshots to GreenLine Freight's procurement director. My throat tightened. That one still hurt. Not because of the money. Because of the men in my yard who did not know their paychecks had become ammunition in my wife's affair. That contract was worth $600,000 a year. I said. Madison's voice cracked. I warned them because I was scared. Rachel pulled a subpoena draft from her folder. Then the director can explain why your email said, use this before Nathan signs. Madison reached for the fake texts like she could hide them under her palm. Rachel slid them away first. I looked at Brandon's name still glowing on the phone. You didn't want protection, I said. You wanted a witness list. For the first time that day, Madison had no answer ready. The silence pressed down. The air conditioner clicked on above us, cold and mechanical. I remembered the first time Madison had visited the freight yard. She had worn white sneakers and complained about the dust, but she had smiled when one of my drivers called her Mrs. Boss. She liked being close to what I built. Until she decided she could carve it into pieces. Rachel placed a new page on top of the fake texts. Madison opened an LLC 12 days before filing. Her lawyer stiffened. Relevance? Marital money moved into it. Rachel said. That is relevance. Madison snapped. It's a consulting brand. I'm allowed to work. I pointed at the transfer line. $32,000 from our joint account to Cole Creative Holdings. Rachel added. Then $11,000 went to Pierce Strategy Group. Madison looked at her lawyer. Don't let them do this. He lowered his voice. Did Brandon form that company? Madison didn't answer. Rachel slid over the Ohio Secretary of State printout. Registered agent Brandon Pierce. Mailing address same building as his real estate office. Linda whispered. Madison, what is that? Madison shot back. It's nothing. Rachel tapped the document. Then you won't object to a temporary restraining order on asset transfers. Madison slapped the table. You're freezing my company? No, I said. I'm stopping you from laundering my divorce through your boyfriend's mailbox. Her lawyer stood. We're done for today. Rachel did not move. Good. We file emergency motions by 4. Madison reached for the ring sleeve. Rachel moved it out of reach. Don't touch preserved property. Madison's face paled. I pushed the shell company record back toward her. You should have picked a smarter man to hide stupid money. That was when the room changed. Until then, Madison had been performing for an audience. Her lawyer. Her mother. Me. Maybe even herself. But once Brandon's name was on paper, performance became panic. She straightened her blazer like she could button herself back into control. Nathan, she said carefully, you're making yourself look unstable. Her lawyer snapped his folder shut. Anything filed today will be met with a motion for exclusive possession of the home. Rachel slid a second folder from her bag. Already prepared. Madison laughed once. Prepared for what? He still needs my signature on the business valuation. I pulled a certified copy from the folder and placed it beside the screenshots. No, I don't. Her smile dropped. Rachel tapped the first page. Cole Freight's operating assets were placed in a revocable business trust 18 months ago, before separation, with full disclosure in the tax filings. Madison looked at her lawyer. What does that mean? He did not answer quickly enough. So I did. It means you can argue value. You don't get to grab trucks, payroll, or client receivables because Brandon promised you a payday. Madison shoved her chair back. You hid money from me. Rachel cut in. Asset protection is not concealment when she signed the CPA. Engagement letter. Linda leaned forward. You signed what? Madison's mouth tightened. I sign a lot of things. Rachel placed the signature page in front of her. Including this. Madison stared at her own signature. For a second, I saw the old version of her. The woman at the kitchen table with a red pen in her mouth, teasing me for reading every contract twice. You're paranoid, she used to say. No, I would tell her. I'm careful. Careful had become my last defense. Madison reached for her phone. I'm calling Brandon. I nodded at the shell company record. Do that. Put him on speaker. She froze with her thumb over the screen. I looked at the trust paperwork, then at her lawyer. Greed reads fine print last. Madison kept her thumb over Brandon's name. This is harassment. Her lawyer suddenly lifted one finger. Actually, he said, since Mr. Cole wants to talk about fabricated messages, let's discuss the real ones. For the first time that day, Rachel's pen stopped moving. Madison looked at me, and something almost like confidence returned to her face. Her lawyer pulled a separate printout from his folder and slid it toward Rachel. This message came from Nathan's phone, he said. Not a mock-up. Not edited. Carrier records will confirm it. Rachel looked down. Then I saw the line. My stomach tightened. Where are you? Answer me now. Madison's lawyer read it aloud slowly, making sure every word had weight. Where are you? Answer me now. Madison lowered her eyes like a woman reliving fear. He sent that at 12:48 a.m. Her lawyer said. So before your client keeps pretending he never monitored her, maybe he should explain why a grown woman had to answer to him in the middle of the night. The room shifted. Not much. But enough. Linda looked at the paper. Rachel looked at me. Madison's lawyer leaned back, satisfied. For the first time since we sat down, I felt the table tilt against me. Because the message was real. I had sent it. And if you cut away everything around it, it looked exactly like the man Madison needed me to be. Madison whispered, That's what I've been trying to tell everyone. Her lawyer pushed harder. Mr. Cole, did you or did you not send that text? Rachel turned slightly. Nathan. I swallowed. Yes, I said. I sent it. Madison closed her eyes, almost smiling through her tears. Her lawyer nodded once. No further spin needed. For 2 seconds I could see the whole trap working. The fake text didn't have to be perfect if they had one real brick in the wall. One ugly-looking message. One moment of fear. One sentence with the context stripped out. That was all a line needed to borrow the shape of truth. Rachel did not interrupt. She let the silence stretch until Madison's lawyer got comfortable inside it. Then Rachel asked, What happened 11 minutes before Nathan sent that text? Madison's eyes opened. Her lawyer frowned. Excuse me? Rachel turned to Linda. Mrs. Harper, at 12:37 a.m. that same night, did you call Nathan? Linda froze. Madison's head snapped toward her mother. Mom. Rachel's voice stayed even. Did you call him because Madison was not answering you, because she had taken your car earlier that evening, And because you were worried she had been drinking? Linda's lips parted. Madison whispered, "Don't." Rachel slid a call log across the table. 12 minutes. 41 seconds. Incoming call from Linda Harper to Nathan Cole. At 12:37 a.m. Then, at 12:48, Nathan sent, "Where are you? Answer me now." Madison's lawyer reached for the log. Rachel placed another page beside it. And at 12:51, Madison replied, "Tell my mother I'm fine. Stop making this dramatic." I looked at Linda. Her face had gone pale. Rachel asked gently, "Mrs. Harper, did Nathan threaten Madison that night?" Linda stared at her daughter. Then at me. "No," she said quietly. Madison's chair creaked. Rachel continued, "Did you ask him to find out where she was?" Linda's eyes filled. "Yes." The room went dead still. Rachel looked at Madison's lawyer. "That is why context matters. Your client took one real message, wrapped it around fabricated ones, and hoped nobody would ask why it was sent." Madison's lawyer looked down at the printout he had just been so proud of. It no longer looked like evidence. It looked like a door he wished he had not opened. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. Madison stared at her mother with something sharper than anger. Betrayal, maybe? But that was rich, coming from her. Rachel opened her laptop. "No. This is notice." Her lawyer leaned in. "Notice of what?" Rachel turned the screen toward him. "Emergency motion to freeze transfers from Cole Creative Holdings and Pierce Strategy Group until discovery." Madison snapped. "You can't freeze Brandon's company. We can if marital funds move through it," Rachel said. "And if he helped interfere with a $600,000 freight contract." Her lawyer's face tightened. "That is a separate civil issue." "Correct," Rachel said. "Defamation. Tortious interference. Conspiracy to conceal marital assets." Madison stood again. "You're suing me?" I didn't move. "I'm suing the lie. If you're attached to it, that's your problem." Rachel clicked once. "Draft complaint is ready. We file after mediation unless your client preserves every account, device, invoice, and email." Madison grabbed her purse. "I'm not handing over my phone." Rachel looked at her lawyer. "Then we request sanctions and an adverse inference." Linda whispered. "Madison, give them the phone." Madison turned on her. "Stay out of it." Linda recoiled like she had been slapped. That was the moment I knew Madison was losing more than paperwork. A lie can survive an enemy. It struggles when its own witness gets scared. My phone buzzed. Rachel checked her screen and nodded. "GreenLine's counsel confirmed receipt of our preservation letter." Madison went still. Her lawyer said, "You contacted the client?" I looked at the fake texts still on the table. She dragged them in. "I just gave them the real address for the lawsuit." No one spoke. Then Madison's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Then at her lawyer. "It's Brandon," Rachel said. "Speaker." Madison did not answer. The call died. A text flashed across her lock screen. "Why is GreenLine calling me?" Linda read it out loud before she could stop herself. Madison snapped. "Mom, don't." Another text hit. "They said litigation hold." "What did you do?" Her lawyer reached for the phone. "Do not respond." Madison jerked it away. "He's panicking because Nathan is threatening people." Rachel turned her laptop again. "No. GreenLine froze the contract review and asked for all communications from you and Mr. Pierce." Madison's face went stiff. "That's my career." I said. "That was my payroll." Those 5 words landed harder than I expected. Even Madison looked away. Maybe for 1 second she remembered the drivers. Carl with the bad hip. Luis, whose daughter needed braces. Mike, who brought his lunch in the same dented cooler every day because his wife was fighting cancer and every dollar mattered. Maybe she didn't. But I did. I remembered all of them. That was why my voice stayed steady. This was not just a divorce anymore. This was someone swinging a match near 37 paychecks and calling it self-defense. Linda picked up her purse. Madison grabbed her sleeve. Where are you going? I'm not sitting here while you lie to officers of the court, Linda said. Madison's voice cracked. You're choosing him? Linda's eyes filled. No. I'm choosing not to be subpoenaed for your boyfriend. She walked out. The door shut softly. Sometimes the quietest exit is the loudest verdict. Madison turned to her lawyer. Fix this. He slid the fake texts back toward Rachel. We need to withdraw these pending verification. Madison stared at him. You're dropping my evidence? Rachel said. No. He's trying not to own it. Then Madison's phone buzzed again. This time the text stayed bright on the screen long enough for every person at the table to read it. Brandon, delete everything. Rachel smiled without warmth. Perfect. Preservation violation in writing. I looked at Madison's empty ring finger. Your whole plan just got dumber in real time. Madison lunged for the phone, but her lawyer caught her wrist first. Do not delete anything. She jerked away. He told me to. Rachel pointed at Brandon's text. That sentence just cost you control of your own story. Madison shoved the fake texts toward her lawyer. Then say they were drafts. Say I was scared. He looked at the pages like they were poison. I can't represent a fabricated record as evidence. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out clean. Rachel slid the evidence sleeve across the table. Madison's wedding ring sat inside it, sealed, labeled, useless to her now. That stays preserved with the screenshots. Madison slapped the table. It's my ring, I said. Then stop throwing property during legal proceedings. Her phone buzzed again. Bank alert. Temporary hold. Madison read it twice, then snapped at Rachel. You froze my card? Rachel said. The court did after we filed the emergency packet. Madison turned toward her mother's empty chair. Then to her lawyer. I need money for a hotel. He closed his folder. Use funds not tied to the disputed account. Her face twisted. That's all my money. I looked at the ring in the sleeve. Then at the fake text beside it. No, Madison. That was the problem. You kept mistaking access for ownership. By 3:10 p.m., Madison's lawyer stopped calling it mediation. We're moving this to court, he said. Rachel nodded. Good. The emergency freeze is already entered, and discovery starts today. Madison stared at him. You said Nathan would settle? He kept his eyes on the table. That was before fabricated evidence and asset transfers. Her phone buzzed again. Brandon, I'm out. Don't contact me. For the first time that day, Madison looked small. Not innocent. Not broken in a way that made me want to comfort her. Just small. The way people look when the stage lights go out and no one claps. She typed fast. Her lawyer snapped. Stop creating exhibits. She threw the phone into her purse. Rachel slid the final emergency stipulation forward. House listed for neutral review within 30 days. Joint account audited. Business trust protected. No exclusive possession. No temporary support until income, transfers, and misconduct are reviewed. Devices preserved. No deletion. No contact with GreenLine except through counsel. Madison's voice went thin. So what do I get? I looked at the fake texts. Then at the sealed ring. A copy of everything you tried to use on me. Her lawyer closed his pen. My client needs time. Rachel stood. Your client used fake records to attack a business, move marital funds, and trigger a litigation hold. Time is now expensive. Madison reached for the ring sleeve one last time. Rachel picked it up. First. Preserved. Madison looked at her mother's empty chair. Then at the door Brandon never walked through. I signed the emergency stipulation. The pen felt heavier than it should have. 8 years of marriage does not end with thunder. Sometimes it ends with black ink on white paper and a woman realizing the man she tried to frame stayed calmer than her lie. I slid the pen back across the table. You didn't lose a husband today, Madison, I said. You lost the version of yourself people believed. She did not cry then. That came later. The hearing happened 4 days after mediation. By then, Rachel had the metadata report showing the screenshots were not exported from my phone. They had been created in a message mock-up app, cropped, printed, and forwarded from Madison's laptop to her lawyer. Her lawyer looked like he had aged 10 years. Brandon did not show up voluntarily. He arrived through subpoena. No white teeth that day. No perfect grin. Just a navy suit, sweaty collar, and the haunted look of a man discovering that flirting with another man's wife is cheaper than helping her commit fraud. GreenLine's counsel submitted a declaration. They had received Madison's email with the screenshots 2 hours after the Hilton charge. The subject line was not, "I need help." It was not, "I'm afraid." It was, "Hold this until he signs." The judge read that line twice. The courtroom went still. Madison sat with her hands folded, trying to look wounded. But wounded people do not usually route money through their boyfriend's company 12 days before filing for divorce. Rachel did not raise her voice. She did not need to. She walked the court through the timeline like laying boards across a flooded road. The hotel. The fake texts. The GreenLine email. The LLC. The transfers. The trust paperwork Madison had signed. Brandon's delete everything message. No shouting. No crying. No performance. Just the truth stacked high enough that Madison could no longer see over it. The judge ordered the temporary freeze to remain in place. Madison was denied exclusive possession of the home. Temporary support was reserved pending a full financial review. The fake screenshots were withdrawn, preserved, and referred for possible sanctions. Brandon and Madison were ordered to preserve all devices and communications. When the judge said the words, "possible fabrication," Madison finally looked at me. There was anger there. Fear too. But underneath both, something else. Recognition. She knew I had not become the monster she described. That was the part she could not survive. If I had yelled, she could have used it. If I had begged, she could have enjoyed it. If I had broken, she could have called it proof. Instead, I stayed still. And the lie had to stand by itself. It collapsed. After court, I walked to the parking garage with Rachel beside me. The air smelled like concrete, exhaust, and rain. My truck was parked on level 3 under a light that flickered like it was tired. Rachel handed me a copy of the order. "You did well," she said. I almost laughed. Well was not the word. I felt hollow. Cleaned out. Like a house after the movers leave and you realize the echo is yours now. "I don't feel like I won," I said. Rachel looked at me for a long second. "You weren't trying to win a marriage," she said. "You were trying to survive a story someone wrote about you." That stayed with me. Because that is what false accusations do. They do not just attack what happened. They try to replace who you are. For months afterward, pieces of Madison's plan kept surfacing. Invoices from Brandon's company. Draft emails. Screenshots saved under file names that sounded like strategy, not fear. A note Madison had typed to herself that said, "Make him react." 3 words. Make him react? I printed that page and stared at it longer than I should have. Because that was the whole marriage at the end. Not love. Not repair. Not grief. A trap waiting for a reaction. The divorce did not finish quickly. Nothing real does. There were hearings, appraisals, depositions, revised disclosures, and more legal bills than I care to remember. But the big thing had already happened. The story had turned. GreenLine eventually came back to the table. Not out of pity. Business does not run on pity. They came back because Rachel gave them the facts. Our safety record was clean, and my company had done the work. We got the contract 6 weeks later. On the first Friday after the first GreenLine payment cleared, I stood in the dispatch office while payroll processed. Carl was arguing with Luis about college football. Mike was complaining about the coffee. The printer jammed twice. Ordinary noise. Beautiful noise. I walked outside and stood by the fence line, looking at the trucks lined up under a gray Ohio sky. For the first time in months, my chest loosened. Not because Madison lost. Because the people who depended on me were still standing. That mattered more. The house on Maple Ridge went up for review. Eventually, it sold. I thought that would break me. It didn't. The maple tree was bare the day I packed the last box. I walked through the empty kitchen where Madison once said she felt safe. The room looked smaller without furniture. Every sound bounced. I stood there with my keys in my hand and waited for the old memory to cut me. It did. But not as deep. That is how healing starts. Not with peace. With a wound that hurts less than it used to. I left the keys on the counter and locked the door behind me. Madison called that night from a number I did not recognize. I almost let it ring out. Then I answered. For 10 seconds neither of us spoke. Finally she said, "Nathan, I never meant for it to go that far." I looked around my new apartment. 1 bedroom. Cardboard boxes. A folding chair in the living room. My work boots by the door. Nothing fancy. "Mine. You meant for me to leave my house," I said. "You meant for GreenLine to doubt me. You meant for a judge to see me as dangerous. You meant for people to believe screenshots you knew were fake." Her breath shook. I was scared. "No," I said. "You were losing control." She started crying then. Once, that sound would have moved every part of me. That night I felt sadness. But not responsibility. There is a difference. She said Brandon had disappeared. His company was under review. Her lawyer wanted out. Her mother was barely speaking to her. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered. I closed my eyes. I thought of the woman in the kitchen 8 years earlier. The red marker on the GreenLine draft. The cookouts. The mortgage payments. The laughter before it became a weapon. Then I opened my eyes and remembered the printed screenshots. "You're who you chose to be when you thought nobody could prove it," I said. She sobbed harder. I did not hang up cruelly. I did not comfort her either. I simply said, "All communication goes through counsel now." Then I ended the call. No shouting. No final insult. No revenge speech. Just a boundary. A clean one. Months later, the divorce decree came through. Madison received what the law allowed after the accounting. Less than she wanted. More than my anger thought she deserved. That is how courts work. They are not designed for perfect justice. They are designed to stop the bleeding. The business trust held. The GreenLine contract stayed. Brandon settled before trial on the civil side. I never saw him again except once, from across a courthouse hallway. He looked away first. Madison moved into an apartment across town. I heard that from Linda, who came by the freight yard one afternoon with an envelope of old photos Madison had left behind. She looked older. So did I. "I'm sorry," Linda said. I took the envelope. "For what part?" I asked. Her eyes filled. "For believing the easy story." That one landed. Because people do that. They believe the story that cost them the least. It cost Linda less to believe I was controlling than to believe her daughter was cruel. It cost Madison less to call me dangerous than to admit she had betrayed a man who trusted her. It cost Brandon less to text, "Delete everything," than to face what he helped create. But truth has a way of sending invoices. Sooner or later, everybody pays. I kept one photo from the envelope. Not a wedding photo. Not a vacation. A blurry picture from the freight yard, years ago, when Madison had come by with lunch and I had grease on my hands. She was laughing at something one of the drivers said. I was looking at her like a man who thought he knew where home was. I kept it because I do not want to become the kind of man who pretends good memories were fake just because the ending was ugly. They were real. So was the betrayal. Both can be true. That is the part nobody tells you. Healing is not proving you never loved them. Healing is admitting you did, and still choosing not to go back. These days, I wake up at 5:30. Coffee by 6. Yard check by 6:30. Dispatch meeting at 7. The rhythm came back slowly. Steel. Diesel. Paperwork. Payroll. Weather reports. Small problems I can solve with phone calls and patience. I bought a smaller house north of town. No maple tree. No big kitchen. Just a porch, a garage, and enough quiet to hear myself think. Sometimes people ask if I hate Madison. I don't. Hate is heavy, and I spent enough years carrying weight for two people. What I feel now is distance. Clean distance. The kind that lets a man sleep. If there is one thing I learned, it is this: when someone builds a lie around your reaction, your calm becomes evidence. Not weakness. Evidence. I did not beat Madison by being louder. I did not beat Brandon by being tougher. I did not save my company by being cruel. I survived because I stayed still long enough for the truth to walk into the room and take a seat. And when it did, it brought everything with it. The fake texts. The hotel room. The LLC. The GreenLine email. The ring in the evidence sleeve. The message that said, "Delete everything." People think revenge is fire. Sometimes it is. But the best revenge I ever saw was quieter than that. It was a phone face-up on a conference table. A lawyer closing his folder. A mother walking out. A judge reading one line twice. A payroll clearing on Friday. And a man locking the door on a house he once loved, knowing he was not the villain in the story anymore. My name is Nathan Cole. I lost a wife. I almost lost my name. But I kept my hands flat on the table. I kept my voice steady. And in the end, the lie did what all lies do when nobody feeds them anymore. It starved.